Come and dream with me.
Hello and welcome to What Do You Want to Watch, the Explosion Network's premier media podcast. Every fortnight we get together to talk about movies, TV and online content and help you answer the question, why did the BAFTAs not nominate Kristen Stewart for Best Lead Actress in a Movie? It's because they're all Team Elizabeth.
Wow.
I'm your host, Ashley Hobley. Joining me today, Dylan Blight.
When did you think that up? This morning?
Oh, it's been in my mind for a while. I'm just trying to find the right wording,
okay.
You know, I'm sure that they gave Helen Mirren the award, like, when she played Queen Elizabeth so many years ago, right?
Kate Blanchett?
When Olivia Colman played Queen
Olivia
in
Colman?
The Favourite, she won. And then when she played her in The Crown,
Mm.
she won against... And then Princess Diana, the actress who played Princess Diana, went home with nothing.
It's true.
Foreshadowing.
True.
All right, on today's show, we'll be talking about what's in our watch history. We're going over some news, giving some thumbs to some trailers, and giving you this week's top 3. Dylan, let's kick things off. Quickly touching on a film we've just done a spoiler cast for, Jackass Forever. We've done a big road to the movie. This project's taken like 7 months to complete. With Ryan Betts from the Pop Culturist. You can check that over at explosionnetwork.com on the What Do You Want to Watch feed. But Dylan, do you want to just quickly give your overall thoughts of Jackass Forever?
I thought it was really good as a fan, like a super fan. I feel like there's a few things that, like, stuff that was a bit weak, that didn't have major payoff. And I don't know if that's just because some of the cast just didn't want to do, like, not everyone's Knoxville and wants to just commit to being like, no, I'm still good, sort of thing. And like, maybe some people didn't want to take as bigger hits, and obviously that's why they've got a assortment of younger people in this as well to take some of the harder hitting stuff, because the main Jackass cast is a bit older. But I feel like it's obviously, I wouldn't say it's like, compared to movies I usually complain about for being like nostalgia driven, I feel like this, because it's about real people and whatever, is like a bit different than a character driven nostalgia thing. And there was enough nostalgia and like throwbacks to older pranks and big moments from other films or the TV show and so forth in this that I quite appreciated. And yeah, I think ultimately it's just typical Jackass humor. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, this ain't going to change your mind, because it's probably more focused on genital humor or gross out humor than some of the other ones, maybe just because they don't want to take the big hard hitting stuff as much, and they focused on that to make a lot of the movie. But yeah, I mean, I laughed a lot. My whole cinema laughed a lot. I had a really great time.
Yeah, I enjoyed it as well. Not as much bodily fluids as the other ones, so that's a plus. Because that's the main issue I've had with the previous ones. But yes, a lot of genitalia, and, you know, I think there were some hard hits and that kind of stuff, but yeah, it definitely not as... There was a lot more almost dying, but that's because they're much older and can't take as many hits as they could before.
I mean, Knoxville literally takes his hardest fucking hit in this movie, so I mean, that's something.
I mean, he starts the movie with black hair and he ends the movie with grey hair, so I mean...
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's true. Aged him up.
Yeah, so check out Jackass Forever, and then check out our spoilercast of Jackass Forever. Alright. Dylan, you've got a review for Gold, the latest movie on Stan, starring Zac Efron, up on explosionnetwork.com. Gave it a 6, but do you want to expand on that? Why did you give it a 6?
I feel like it's just a bit drawn out and doesn't really land its... I feel like this would have been a little bit better tightened up, and I mean, it's only like, what is it? It's an hour 37, so it's not even that long or whatever. But also, just feel like thematically, it never really gets where it needs to be within that time, and it just spends a long time not really getting there. And I don't feel like the ending was super satisfying or whatever. It's the story is. It's sometime, the setup's cool because it doesn't really give you all the answers, which I kind of like, but it's sometime in the future. The world sort of, you know, I think they, in the prelude text, they say it's like because of a natural, like, you know, our planet's dying sort of storyline thing. And there's lots of sort of background storytelling. So Zac Efron's character arrives at this town early in the movie. There's lots of different sorts of languages written on signs and stuff. Like not just English, there's other languages and stuff. So it's like you don't really know where you are. So although you can assume this movie set in Australia and it was filmed in Australia and everything, it could be. Who really knows? It doesn't really matter ultimately. But so he's come here, Zac Efron's character has come here to get work at some mystical place that never really gets explained, but apparently they offer work, and that's where he's going. And he hires this character played by Anthony Hayes, who's the writer and director as well, to drive him there. And on the drive there, they stop at one point, and Zac Efron's character discovers a massive like gold nugget in the ground. So then the other character has to head off to find a excavator to bring back to get that out, and he says it's going to take a few days. So Zac Efron has limited water and supplies to survive out there, and so it has to pace himself. And then the rest of the movie is more or less Zac Efron on a one-man losing his mind, starvation, like that's sort of the setup for the movie. Wild dogs coming in the middle of the night and sort of stuff like that. It's definitely very different for Zac Efron. I think it's good to see him stretch his acting abilities, and I quite liked him in this. And he was happy to pretty much look like shit by the end of the movie. Which is get off the whole high horse. He must look good and everything because he's Zac Efron, sort of. Which I feel like you never see him really get beaten up or bloodied or anything. And so yeah, I thought it was okay. 6 out of 10. It's okay. I just feel like it has some problems.
Okay. So I checked out the new series on Apple TV Plus, The Afterparty. So there's currently 4 episodes out. It follows the murder of Xavier, played by James Franco, a big celebrity pop star turned movie star, who at the afterparty to his 15th high school reunion is found dead after falling from his cliffside mansion. And somebody at the afterparty is the person who killed him. So it's the detective comes in, played by Tiffany Haddish, and is questioning all the different people in the party, trying to figure out who was behind killing Xavier. It's really fun, really enjoyable. It's got a nice twist where each episode it features Tiffany Haddish interviewing each of the suspects, but then each of them is retelling the events of the night in a different way. So, obviously, in the first episode, focuses on Anik, who is coming back to his 15th high school reunion, hoping to reconnect with his high school crush. It's told it's kind of like a romantic comedy type, experience kind of thing. And then the second episode is told from Ike Barinholtz's character's perspective, and he's like an action movie star and telling dumb, cheesy one-liners, and it's all about family and bullshit. But then the third episode features Jasper, played by Ben Schwartz, and it's just a musical. It's filled with a bunch of musical numbers because he desperately wants Jasper to bless his track, much in the way that 50 Cent blessed the game. Except hopefully without the ensuing beef, which is the line in the song he sings. I found it is really good so far. A fantastic cast, Sam Richardson, Tiffany Haddish, Zoe Chow, Ike Barinholtz, Ben Schwartz, Alana Glazer, Dave Franco. Lots of really cool people you've seen in really funny stuff. It's created by Christopher Miller of Lord and Miller fame.
I was about to say, is that related to? But yeah, never mind.
Yeah, so it's one half. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I think it's well shot and lots of laughs and interesting mystery. I don't know who killed him. Is obviously everybody's kind of an unreliable narrator and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's not exactly clear yet who killed him. But yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. I also watched the new adaptation of the Lee Child character, Jack Reacher, on Amazon Prime, starring Alan Richardson as Jack Reacher. Very much an actual adaptation of Lee Child's first novel, Killing Floor, in which Jack Reacher, a former US Army military police person, comes into town, and is soon arrested because he's suspected of being behind a random murder. But then there proves to be a bigger conspiracy going on and that kind of stuff. So, I never watched the Reacher movies with Tom Cruise, but from what I've read, people seem to be very happy with this iteration. Mainly because he's tall and big.
People hated Tom Cruise because he doesn't, like in the books, he's described as this massive
6'5",
muscle dude.
So, so obviously he's a bit bigger and a bit more of an intimidating figure. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's like pretty solid, fun action series. Jack is more than willing to kill people and that kind of stuff. Is a bit kind of no-nonsense, little feeling kind of gruff man who has a great sense of justice and whatever. So, of course, there's like personal stakes in this murder investigation for him as well, but I think the mystery that kind of unfolds, which apparently I've gone back and had a look, is very much from the book. It's not like, sometimes they do an adaptation, but like they invent completely different story. It's like, it seems like it's very closely tied to the original novel, so that should keep fans happy. I really enjoyed the supporting cast, including Willa Fitzgerald plays Roscoe, the main love interest and a local detective, police officer. She's really good as like in that role. So yeah,
these all drop at once or something.
These all dropped at once. It's like an Amazon, one of those drop all at once ones. Yeah, the thing I was thinking, it reminds me the most of Jack Ryan, the John Krasinski series, that also is on Amazon, but I think that's mostly because it is on Amazon. Yeah, it's got that same kind of like vibe. But yeah, this one a bit more violent, which I appreciate. It is kind of a weird trend for Amazon going forward that they just tend to have a lot of violent stuff. Including the next thing I want to talk about, Legends of Vox Machina. So this is the animated adaptation of the first campaign from Critical Role, of course, the massive Dungeons and Dragons series. One of the biggest
live roleplay or
live roleplayer game series. Yeah, it is the biggest Kickstarter ever, or for like television property. Yeah, so I've watched. So there's 6 episodes out by now. I've watched all 6. I'm really enjoying it so far. Like, it's really cool to see these characters, obviously, in an animated form. Seeing, obviously, they've got all the voice actors for the main crew of Vox Machina because they're all members of Critical Role. But obviously, they got in a bunch of other people to play all of the non-playable characters that would have been voiced by Matt Mercer during the actual live play sessions.
So who does Matthew Mercer actually voice? Does he actually have a character? Or?
He plays Lord Briarwood and like a couple of
like
the main
like a major character,
bad guy.
Okay, right, okay.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll probably like a couple other like smaller parts and that kind of stuff. But they got a lot of some big name people. Like they've got Stephanie Beatriz and David Tennant and all sorts.
I was about to say they just got all their voice actor friends, but then you were like David Tennant.
Yeah, they got a whole bunch of different interesting people. So they did like a big cast reveal video that was pretty popularly received. I'm enjoying it so far. I don't know how it would feel for like newcomers who have no idea about the story. Like, sure, it's fun, it's violent, it's very adult. There's like there's a song involving anal beads and a lot of sex scenes, including Scanlan. But yeah, I think it moves. I wish it was a bit slower paced, is what I think I come down to. Especially comparing it to something like Invincible. I feel like that's a pretty harsh comparison because those episodes were like 40 minutes long. These are like 20. So it's a bit shorter, but there are a couple of moments there that I kind of wish they'd lingered on a bit more or had taken longer to get to. Like, obviously, there's this big moment involving Percy where he kind of goes over the edge for the first time. It's like 3 episodes in, he's been one of 8 characters in the first 3 episodes. You barely get to know him, and it's not as surprising or out of character when you barely know him at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm surprised considering it's based on like a campaign that took several years and was like 4+ hour sessions at a time.
But it was always going to be there's 2 episodes of like original content, but really those first 2 episodes of like kind of, from what I've gathered, kind of explaining what happened pre-campaign, or at least gets them to a point where they could tell this Briarwood arc, which is where they were mostly wanting to go. What they promised during the Kickstarter campaign. So yeah, it is. You can definitely feel the time difference from something that they played 40 something hours of in the lead up to these events, compared to here's 40 minutes, get to know these characters, and then these events start to unfold, that kind of stuff. So, I think obviously people who know the story and that kind of stuff, it's a nice retelling of that kind of thing. But I don't know how people who have not experienced it.
See how I go, because I want to check it out, but I've never. I only ever watched some of the second campaign, or listened to some of the second campaign. I never jumped because I attempted to get into it, but I don't have the fucking time. Not because I didn't like it, but because
it was 140 something episodes in, and
yeah, 4 hours each, and
4,
it's Critical Role is a huge commitment. So
yeah,
as someone who would like to have the time to watch their stuff, I feel like that means I should definitely check out the show.
I think so.
Sort of like, it's like, oh, you want to watch our stuff, but you don't have the time? No problem. Here's the animated show. So,
yeah, I would. Yeah, that's a pretty good entry point. I would recommend reading the graphic novels. I think they're pretty great entry point.
I thought they were like spin-offs. No,
they're doing spin-offs, but like they did like Vox Machina Origins, which is like
or like a prequel. That's a prequel.
A prequel, right? Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
So yeah, even those events are before the events of this campaign, so or this TV show. So there's certain elements I'm like, oh, is that going to be canon or not? It's like, yeah, it's interesting, but yeah, I'm definitely keen to watch the rest of it. Kieran already said he wants to do a spoiler cast when it's all finished, so look forward to more Legend of Vox Machina content coming to. What do you want to watch? Dylan, you watched a bunch of horror stuff.
They're called movies, Ash.
Sure. Tell us about Slapface.
Slapface was pretty good. What did I give this? I don't know. I can't remember. I gave it a high enough score, I think. So this is a movie that sort of got a typical monster setup in which this young boy is sort of being bullied and doesn't have the greatest home life. His family, his mum and dad died prior to the movie starting, and he's sort of just under the care of his older brother, who I presume has been like made his legal guardian, and that's why they're, it's not just, oh, you're the older brother, sure, legally you can just live with him. But he at home, and the movie starts with this scene where his older brother, who must be like 20 something or whatever, he's slapping the boy, whom I'd say is like maybe like 11, probably, I'd guess. I don't really know. 11, 12. But he's like slapping him, and you feel it because you're like, and you quickly learn that it's a thing that they've agreed upon, that when the younger brother does something wrong, instead of like talking about it or, having a normal conversation about why did you do that, or like raising a child properly, I guess, they play this game called Slapface where they will just slap each other. But obviously being the little boy, he doesn't have as much, anywhere near the same strength that his older brother does. So like he'll slap him, but it's just like, sort of bounces off.
It's coming back tenfold, yeah.
Yeah, and then the other one, then his older brother just like slaps him, and his fucking face just goes like completely sideways. It's loud and everything, but and then outside that, he doesn't do well at school. It's very obvious early in the movie that he's just not dealing with the loss of his parents well, and he doesn't really have a good support network at all. And then he getting bullied at school by these girls, one of which he likes, and she likes him back, but because her friends don't like him, she like pretends to pick on him in front of in front of her friends. But then secretly she's like normal to him. But as soon as the other girls show up, she's like kicking him and like all this stuff. So this kid's just not in a good place. One day his dad goes into this building. He discovers this monster who's like some creepy witch looking thing. I don't know, has like a mask on. It's hard to describe. So, and from that point on, that monster starts doing nasty things to people who pick on the boy is sort of the non-spoilery way, I guess I would put it. But the monster element's sort of the weakest, least interesting thing of the movie. I think it's at its best when it's that whole like Guillermo del Toro sort of thing where in all his movies the monsters aren't even the bad guys. It's sort of the or they're not the biggest bad guys. It's just actually usually the people, and that's mostly the case here. I think thematically the movie really worked for me. I understood and got and vibe with what it was sort of trying to talk about and stuff. So yeah, I like this one. I gave it like a, I don't know, 7, 8 or something. I don't know.
7.
There you go.
There you go. Tell us about The Last Thing Mary Saw.
I did not like this movie.
No, you did not.
I gave this 3, I think.
Yep.
It was just shit, to be honest. It was like so. It's just came across very try hard to me, and like aggressively try hard. There's this really funny scene in the recent Scream movie where the characters start screaming about elevated horror and how it's so much better than slasher flicks and stuff. Elevated horror, as far as I'm concerned, isn't really a real genre. I know that most people know what that means. I don't know if you like. So elevated horror is a term that people have made up for Ari Aster movies and like stuff like The Witch and like horror movies that aren't really horror movies, but they're more just like The thing is, elevated horror comes down to them just being psychological thrillers, but for some reason we're not calling them psychological thrillers. We're calling them elevated horror. Like people like Hereditary, elevated horror. It's just just call it a psychological thriller. Like no need to be so fucking upmarket about it. The Last Thing Mary Saw is a movie that's trying to hit that same genre. So it's set during the set during the maybe like the fucking 19 somethings anyway, early days. They have electricity, they have stuff. So, but I mean, you know, they're ultra Christian Catholic family, whatever it is. I can't actually remember. I think maybe it's Catholic. And they have like a valve silence. It's like that sort of thing. Not allowed to speak. And one of the girls of the family is in love with one of the girls who's the maid, and they're having this secret romance and they're plotting to escape. And they're trying to do this. And of course, everyone sort of in the house hears and sees things. And it's more or less, it's like 90 minutes of watching these girls get punished. And then in slow drawn out scenes. And then also just dialogue that's really wanky. And if you've never heard me say that before, when I call something wanky, I mean, it's just fluffy dialogue that's blown up for no reason. So people go on these like monologues and whatever else, and you can tell the movie thinks it's saying something smart, but it's not. It's just wanky dialogue. It doesn't actually need to exist. But yeah, you have to watch like they punish the girls by making them like kneel on uncooked rice for like days or weeks or whatever it was. I can't remember. So that's sort of this grueling thing where we have to watch these girls be tortured for hours, and there's sort of a payoff at the end, I guess, but ultimately I was like, I don't understand the point of this movie. And the biggest problem is that for this movie to have any chance of you enjoying it, you have to like the two leads and you have to sympathize with their romance, to which none of that happens. Like the movie's just like, oh, these two characters love each other. Like, okay, show me. Nah. Like, do these two actresses have any chemistry with one another? No, seems like they hate each other, in fact. Like, it does not work if I feel like even some better casting, and not to say the actors are bad, like, no offense to the girls, it's just, like, I just don't feel like they had on-screen chemistry at all for this role, and it doesn't make the movie work, so, yeah, I didn't like it. I would suggest, these are both Shudder movies, so, of my recent Shudder reviews, the one to watch is Lapface.
Alright. Alright, well, you also ventured out to the cinema and you watched the big Will Smith film, King Richard.
Yeah, I love tennis.
Love tennis. Getting into the Australian Open spirit.
Yeah.
All about that party.
All about that party, yeah. I really, really enjoyed this movie. This movie actually made me enjoy tennis, so that was good. But yeah, if you don't know what this is the, what's their last name?
The Williams sisters.
The Williams sisters, yeah. And focuses on them and their father, who's played by Will Smith, and it's their very interesting life or early life story. Like it only follows them up until, I don't know, maybe she's 16, the older one. I can't remember which one's which, to be honest.
Venus is the older one.
There you go, Venus. It follows them up to maybe she's 16. Sort of, I don't think it's the spoiler to say like it sort of finishes after like a major sort of thing, like big thing that happens in her life when she's sort of 16. But yeah, it's not like, hey, here's the entire life story of them. It's just here's how they got from. I didn't know anything about them, or like I knew who they were, obviously, because who doesn't know who they are, but not to the point that I can remember which one's which or fucking anything, because I don't really like or watch tennis. But they're big known sports stars, so of course I knew who they were. But I had no idea they came from Compton and all this other sort of stuff that was sort of crazy to watch. Like, movie has scenes where they're like Will Smith's like training them, Will Smith playing their dad is training them in like this tennis court in Compton or whatever. And you have like people drive up and like try and like talk to the girls and like real creepy, like, you know, obviously they're underage and, you know, like it's just this whole, it's like, oh, I didn't know they like really came from fucking literally the bottom to the top sort of story. So it's really, really interesting. But I think I enjoyed the first half the most, which is when they're sort of struggling, training, all this sort of stuff. About halfway through the movie, you get involved with, what's his name? He's the Punisher, whatever his name is.
John Bernthal.
Yeah, John Bernthal. Yeah, Bernthal, sorry. He's like introduced as this
Coach.
Trainer dude or whatever, I guess, person. In like the halfway point. Not to say the movie goes bad then, it's just a different tone. Like from then it's this weird period of, and I guess nothing's really a spoiler because it's a biography, right? Like to a degree, but like it's this weird period of life where Will Smith's character, King Richard, whatever his real name is, Richard, they're like, he refuses to let Venus play for like years. And it's just this weird sort of turns into a weird movie where they're like constantly training and then he's just being like a really annoying character and John Bernthal's constantly being like, can you let her play? And he's like, nah, dude, like we gotta let these kids be kids. And John Bernthal's character, whatever. I'd like to know how much this dialogue's real or based on reality conversation. But he's like, they go home to their big mansion house they got now or whatever. And he's like, well, I'm paying for this shit and you've given me nothing. And he's like, I'll talk about that later, dude. Like, like it's just, it's a really...
Yeah, he's an eccentric character from what I understand, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's actually Israel.
I watched a lot. I went home. As soon as I finished watching it in the cinema, I came home and I watched a lot of YouTube videos. It is insane how well Will Smith should and probably will get an Oscar nomination for this role. Like, I know it's not to say that this isn't a movie where everything else, like, I think the movie's really, really strong. I think, but I feel like it probably is not going to be Best Picture. Well, maybe. But I feel like, if anything, Will Smith's definitely going to get nominated. And he deserves it. Because I teared up at one point, and there's 100% between the chemistry he has. Like, Will Smith is, like, doing his... Look, when Will Smith acts, he can fucking act. And this is him doing his acting thing, right? Not just being Will Smith sort of thing. But that's really good. But, like, I was watching some of these videos back of the real life stuff, and the way he talks... The accent, the sort of hunch in the way he walks, like the way he sort of moves his legs. Like Will Smith has like, it is insane, like how much he's sort of mastered it. It is one of those roles where he literally feels like he becomes the character, which is insane. But yeah, I learned a lot about tennis watching this movie too, like how the game's played, the rules, which was another thing. And yeah, I mean, obviously,
what 40 love means now.
Yeah, they have this stereotypical sports movie thing where, of course, the last like 20 minutes, or whatever, is a match, you know, like an intense, typical sports movie thing, or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, this is the most I've ever been into watching a tennis match. Like, and I don't know what's going to happen because I'm like, I don't know anything. I've never like watched or been into tennis enough to know what the results are of like these characters and like all these people and what happens in their lives. So, yeah, I'd highly suggest watching King Richard. I thought it was fantastic. Both the girl actresses who, I don't remember their names off the top of my head. I'm sorry. I think they're basically new anyway. Fresh comers. They're fantastic as well. But yeah, Will Smith is sort of he is really, really good in this.
Awesome. I'm definitely keen to check it out at some point. So I watched this, special. I don't know what you would describe this film.
Is this the thing you tweeted about? Because if
Yes.
so, yeah, I'm keen to hear why I need to watch this.
So it's called
Whatever it is.
Derek Delgado's In and of Itself. So this was an off-Broadway production that was done in New York City, obviously. 500 and something days, one-man show. And yeah, it is... it's hard to put into words. It is kind of a very autobiographical piece about this gentleman and kind of him sharing it with the audience. He is a trained magician, so that's an element of the show. But he makes it's kind of this exploration of like identity and like how do we view ourselves and what do our actions make us who we are? Do our memories make us who we are? Does what happened to us make us who we are? But yeah, some of the things he pulls off in this is pretty incredible. I don't want to go into too much detail about some of the stuff, but I think this might actually, as cool as it probably was seeing it like on Broadway and like being in that room as the events of this are happening, this is probably a better way to experience it. Because obviously, like a lot of concert shows and stand-up specials and that kind of stuff, they film it over several shows.
Yeah, to get the best.
To get the best reactions, that kind of stuff. So you get the reactions of several different crowds reacting to several different things, and there's certain elements of like audience participation that you get to see different reactions for, and they've also like added some animation elements to like go over the top some of the longer monologues and that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's directed by Frank Oz, the special, whatever. But yeah, it is really good. I think I was trying to find where I found it, and it was ranked on Film School Reject Best Movies of 2021 at number 18. So
I was about to say, how did you even hear and find this thing?
Yeah.
It's very random.
Very rare. So it came out on Hulu like this time last year, but now it's only just come out on Disney Plus. So just a random happenstance that I managed to see it on Just Watch that it had come out. So I was like, yeah, I'm definitely gonna check this out, and I'm really glad I did. I would recommend everybody else checking it out, especially if you know. I don't think if you know more than what I've said here, it will greatly affect your experience. But I would go in knowing as little as possible, just to.
I don't know what it is, and you just said explain. So I mean,
You don't feel like it.
I still don't know what I'd be pressing play on. Other than it's a live something.
It's a live stage show, one man show.
Is it funny?
At times.
Okay.
Yeah, it is an experience. Yeah, I would definitely recommend. And then speaking of experiences, I watched the docu-series. We need to talk about Cosby. So it debuted the first episode.
Oh, this is out.
It's out on Paramount Plus. Yes, so
it's cancelled. Damn it!
I think I don't know. I feel like Paramount Plus is like giving itself pretty good
so
reason.
far.
Yeah, giving itself reason to like continue to be subscribed to. But yeah, it's obviously the first episode debuted at Sundance. So the full thing is out now. Directed by Camus Bell, I want to say, or W. Camus Bell, who is like a TV host, and he did like what was it? Totally Biased, which was a show on FX in which he like it was pretty much like a Daily Show-esque kind of talk show thing back in the mid 2010s. But yeah, this is kind of a look back at the career of Bill Cosby and kind of charting his influence on culture and like his rise as a celebrity, but then also intercut with people's experiences with him, with the other Bill Cosby, the one that we never got to see, the one who was a predator and a drugger and a rapist, and kind of, you know,
a piece of shit.
Yeah, well, that's kind of a given. I mean, yeah, so it's kind of this interesting study of like, again, artist versus art, and like how can these people still appreciate him for because you go through it, and he did like a lot of good stuff. He's like, he was a big educator, and he donated a lot of money to a lot of good causes and stuff. But then again, he was like drugging people and raping them. So I mean, it's pretty hard to look past that.
Yeah, Nazi sympathizers like to bring up how Hitler donated to fucking charity. So
yeah, I know. And then the other interesting thing about it is obviously they were finishing up filming like mid last year, and then Bill Cosby got released from jail. So they get some of the people's reactions to that. They're obviously like survivors and that kind of stuff of his assault victims and that kind of thing. And yeah, it's pretty messed up when.
Yeah, I thought this wasn't out till like later in the year, so I might have to resubscribe if I just cancelled. I mean, it's not like I lost money by it.
No, just use a different email.
Oh, that's true. I can get 7 of that. Nah. Or.
Yeah, I thought it was really well put together, and like, if I would say that he does a good job of coming across a little bit unbiased, even though he is very anti-rape. I mean, it's very difficult subject matter, and like, but yeah, hearing this in this context, I think is very important. And then I feel like, especially in the last episode where they kind of go into why people would still defend Bill Cosby despite all these allegations over all these years.
I mean,
and why?
Like the Woody Harrelson thing I watched. No, fucking Woody Allen thing I watched. What was that last year? You know, the Woody versus.
But it's got a different, like, it's a race thing as well. Like, obviously,
no, but I mean just the subject matter of how do people keep supporting after so many allegations and that sort of stuff. Yeah,
that's true.
I mean, they're very different. They're very different stories, but like the whole art versus
artists and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's pretty messed up. Like, people going, you see footage, you've obviously seen him doing his shows, stand-up shows, while people are protesting him outside, and like people inside laughing and shit. It's like why? I mean, and sure, he was a great stand-up comedian in his time, but you know, it's like, how do you? It's interesting. I
have this thing, like, and I'll just say it because I feel like this. I just don't understand, and him or anyone or any one of these people, none of them are that good. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care. Like, there's so many like actors, comedians. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't feel like there's anyone that could ever be that good. That like means so much that like just move on. Like, there's so many. Yeah. Like, just go.
There's so many talented people out there.
Yeah, I'm like, why do we need to focus? Like, I just don't get it. But
no, yeah, I think the only thing is there's like they bring up Hannibal Buress in like the last episode because like he did like a stand up bit and he's like going off about Bill Cosby and says you should definitely Google Bill Cosby rape. You'll get more hit. It gets more hits than Hannibal Buress. It's like that was kind of a turning point for the discussion around Bill Cosby, but he isn't in the movie, which is weird. But other than that, I feel like they got a lot of important people and like a lot of different voices, a lot of like, what's the word? Like a lot of scholars and like people with like backgrounds like in studying studying education and studying sex, studying predators and that kind of stuff. So I feel like it's very well rounded and yeah, it's an interesting watch, even if it is a bit of a tough watch. So yeah, we need to talk about Cosby on Paramount Plus now.
7 days free.
7-day free trial. Or you can I think you can get a free trial through Amazon Prime.
I will it not realize it's my same?
I don't think so.
Oh, find out soon.
Find out soon. All right, let's move into the mandatory Netflix segment of the show. So I watched the new series that came to at Netflix, Murderville. So this is a TV series in which Will Arnett plays a police detective, but each episode, he is partnered with a different celebrity guest detective trainee. And they go through...
Oh, no,
but wait.
I was like,
He has a script. They don't. So, it's pretty much them... they have to kind of improv their way through different interviews and scenarios. It's a little bit formulaic, where each episode there is 3 different suspects, so they're going to interview the 3 different suspects. In general, there's of course going to be one scene in which they're going to wear an earpiece, and Will Arnett is going to tell them exactly what to do and what to say. And they've got to try and not break in front of the people. But then at the end of the episode, they need to pick who they think is the murderer. And then the police chief comes out and tells them who the actual murderer is, if they're right or wrong. This is based on a British TV series called Murder in Successville. So it's like,
yeah, I looked this up when they announced this, and I looked up the original. But the original looked like it was like it had celebrities playing themselves or something. Like,
yeah, it's a little bit more even more extreme than this, where like there were celebrities playing themselves, but like all of these celebrities like are introduced as themselves. Like the first episode is Conan O'Brien, so it's Conan O'Brien.
Conan O'Brien as a cop.
Well, it's Conan O'Brien as a cop, yeah.
Yeah.
But then in that one, it seems like they had other people playing other celebrities, which is just an extra level of weird. But no, this one's a bit more streamlined, although there's like an ongoing story of the police chief and Will Arnett's character were married, and they're now separated, and like them bickering and that kind of stuff. And he's also got his partner who was murdered 17 years ago, that he's never gotten to go over, who the picture is of Jennifer Anderson, which is funny. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Like, it is fun seeing, it's like kind of a weird twist on like, Thank God You're Here. Like, not as that extreme as that, because obviously
that is literally the show I compare. When I watched the trailer of a week, straight away I'm like, oh, so it's like Thank God You're Here, but like taken to a semi-scripted,
more serious,
yeah.
More serious, like less bullshitty.
That was the last good show on Australian TV, probably.
Yeah,
so.
that's a fair.
Fair call. Yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Like, there's a lot of really good celebrity guest stars. Obviously, you've got Conan O'Brien, they've got Marshawn Lynch, who's quite funny, Sharon Stone, Schitt's Creek's Annie Murphy, Kamal Nanjiani, and then there's Ken Jeong, who, unsurprisingly, is very not good at keeping a straight face. So that was a particularly fun episode to watch. Yeah, so there's like six episodes available. Will Arnett looks like he's having a great time. Yeah, I think it's pretty solid, so I would recommend checking out Murderville on Netflix.
Isn't it funny how there's 2 murder shows that came out like within a week of one another?
It's crazy.
Different streaming services. Yeah.
I mean, murder shows are in vogue right now, you know?
It's true.
You know, Mayor of Easttown, be a show.
Murder's always been...
Murder's been very popular.
Very popular, yeah.
Dylan, you got around to watching Britney versus Spears. What did you think of that one?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
A while ago, yeah.
I feel like it doesn't, like, it rushes towards the end. It's just sort of like blah 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 blah, and here's like 3 or 4 pages of text that's like, then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and on this date this thing happened. But it's like such the monumental thing of Britney obviously winning her freedom. I'm like, why is like did you have to rush to get this movie finished? Like, why wouldn't, even if he was in the editing room and all this stuff started happening, surely you're like, whoa, the movie's not done. Like, let's keep going here, sort of thing. So that part I thought was a bit weird, but all in all, I thought it did a very good job at sort of focusing on the main topic for the majority. Like, oh no, there's 2 topics, I guess. Like, at the start, it's the whole celebrity focus that we as a society seem to have for some reason, and you know, just seeing her surrounded by this paparazzi and all that sort of stuff. And you know, it's funny, I was thinking COVID and all that sort of stuff. When's the last time you saw any crazy like paparazzi celebrity things? I mean, no. Maybe I just, as someone who doesn't care,
maybe they've all gone a bit, they've had to have career changes because they can't do paparazzi.
True. I'm sure there was a period there where
all the people in their house, yeah.
Sure, there's a period there where paparazzi had to get like different jobs or tried to do something else because there just wouldn't have been at least for that first year of COVID. Maybe now they're back at it. I don't know, but yeah, I feel like that focus and sold the message well. And then once you get into the stuff with her family, I feel like there's just a lot more here that could have been explored, and almost it should have been maybe a mini series or something to just get the whole thing told better, because it does feel rushed at points. But I thought overall it was pretty good. Yeah.
All right. And then you watched the first episode of The Puppet Master.
The fuck is that?
I don't know. Some weird crime series.
Oh, wait. Yeah, okay. That's what that's called. Yeah, I liked the Puppet Master, Hunting the Ultimate Common. Yeah, watch the first episode. It's only 3 episodes. I will be watching the rest because it's really interesting. But it sets it up in the first episode. It's like, hey, here's this son, daughter, and ex-husband of this woman who's run off and disappeared with this man, and they're more or less explaining how this guy is a con person who like tricked his way into their family, and he like got the family the son eventually left the house because he was like being locked out of the house by this guy once he moved in. All these horror stories and stuff they're talking about, and then they're also flashing back to this other guy who's telling a story about how he was living in I guess it's Ireland, yeah, and they were like back in the 70s or whatever, and this guy came in and he was like, oh, I'm working for the CIA, whoever the hell it was, and all like, so you've got these two ends of this character and how he's like just a con man in different parts of life and telling lies and getting all this money out of people and getting them to literally run around states and places and whatever else. And I don't know, it's one of those things where I'm like, how do people fall for this, but also maybe I shouldn't think that because like the people's lives have got fucked up and it's like victim blaming, but also it is that thing of like, how does people get away with this stuff? Because some of these lies this dude was telling are just insane and whatever else. But yeah, he's a con man. I haven't Googled him to find out like if there's a finale finish to this that's sort of happy or whatever. But there's only 2 more episodes, so hopefully get back to it sometime soon. But yeah, he's as far as I can tell, present day, run off with someone, and back in the past he was messing around with these like group of 3-4 young 20-year-old or teenagers or whatever they were at the time. I can't remember. And yeah, it's just weird. It's just like, I don't know how fucked up of an individual you have to be in your head to do what someone like this person can to people. Because yeah, it's just like, it's, I don't want to say like maybe it sounds weird, but like it's almost just as bad as killing someone, I feel. Like, because it's just, or like, it's like a very long term, just psychological warfare. It's just weird. I just don't know how you do it. But yeah, I was enjoying the first episode.
All right. That's everything I watched history. Let's move into some film news, or film discussion anyway. I kind of wanted to talk about, obviously, we've got the latest episodes of The Book of Boba Fett come out. And there has been a lot of discussion in the Star Wars fandom about 2 particular topics. I thought we could kind of go in a little bit more in depth here, or like talk about it again in kind of a bigger forum. So I guess spoilers, if you haven't seen the last 2 episodes of The Book of Boba Fett, well, specifically the last episode, I would like to skip ahead, maybe 10, 15 minutes. Yeah. So, with that said, done. We got 20-something minutes of CG Luke Skywalker this past episode. A decision that has kind of divided the fandom. People who liked it and desperately wanted to see a version of Mark Hamill's Luke Skywalker on their screens once again, doing different stuff, even if he sounds like a robot, and moves kind of like a robot. And then there's obviously the audience who was like, no, this is not a good way to go forward for this franchise or for filmmaking in general. I'm guessing I know what side of the the argument you're on, but do you want to share with the audience?
I hate it. Yeah. So it's just weird. So I feel like, I'll put it this way: I didn't mind Tarkin because at the time I was like, all right, at the time it was just flashbang of this movie going back to that time period. Let's just connect the sort of connect the prequels to the original trilogy. It was this sort of weird movie. I was like, fine. Plus, Tarkin, although CGI, was performed on set by a real actor, and his voice is performed by a real actor. So there's elements of reality there, and I would say that Tarkin performance is a lot better than any of this Luke stuff. And that's because the Luke stuff is all computer. Like, not only is it a CGI character.
Apparently Mark Hamill is on stage, on set.
Yeah.
They have a body double do the same thing on set, and then they do some sort of
Mark Hamill is there literally so he can feel good. There is literally no other reason he's there. Because he's not the person they're using, so the body double is there doing the stuff. Then he's CGI'd over with this basically deep fake shit. And then the voice is created by an AI program that's just been fed a bunch of Mark Hamill clean audio from back in the 80s or whatever. So if you're ever like, why does the performance sound like a robot? It's because it is. It is literally a robot. I think it's terrible. I just don't understand. So like, complaints about story stuff aside, because like maybe just save that for like, if you want to hear complaints about story stuff, check out Holocron Entries, our Star Wars podcast, where we've been discussing each episode, I guess. But like, story complaints aside, if you were going to do this, why aren't we just hiring a Sebastian Stan or someone else? I don't understand. Because I really, as much as I think the Star Wars fandom sucks on most days, I really don't feel like if you hired someone who was a really good actor, who looks somewhat like Luke, that maybe the complaints would be at first on Twitter when it's announced, but if it's done well, everyone would get the fuck over it 5 minutes into seeing that performance on screen, if it was good. So I don't know why, like prosthetics and makeup to slightly alter someone to look a bit more like a young Mark Hamill, and just go with that. I don't get it, because then at least you can get a performance that has life behind the eyes and like some emotion to the lines and delivery. Because this is literally just bringing it's not a good precedent, I don't feel like, for Star Wars or any other franchise. Because like 10 years from now, they're just going to be CGIing Robert Downey Jr. into fucking Marvel or some shit. And then it's just not, it doesn't make for good storytelling. Like, it doesn't make for a good performance. It's just like a plastic toy on screen. It's void of anything. It's just, I don't like it. I don't think it's good. I think like Disney and Marvel started with this technology in the right place, and I feel like they used it effectively, where they were like sort of de-aging actors like Robert Downey Jr. and Michael Douglas and whoever else to do some of these flashbacky sort of scenes in MCU and all that sort of stuff. I think that's totally fine. I think the Tarkin thing, I had no problem with. As I said, like, I'll stand by. I thought that was fine in that movie. Maybe in retrospect, I should have hated that, so now I've ended up here. But in like, I was totally fine with that. The Leia thing I thought looked pretty crap, but it was like 5 seconds, whatever. It's not the end of the world. Who cares? Now we're here.
Yeah, I'm not a super fan of it either. I think, like you said, there isn't much life to it. It is, to a certain degree, just action figures on screen. But yeah, I mean, it is kind of an interesting. It's definitely a technology. It's definitely a case of we can do it, but should we? That hasn't been asked. And it is kind of exclusively in Star Wars at the moment. There is like one other big franchise movie that I can think of recently that has had a CGI model of a character.
You know what I thought of that too?
You didn't like that either.
No, I didn't like that.
But yeah, it's kind of it raises a bunch of like ethical questions and like how, like, obviously, this voice is not actually Mark Hamill doing a delivery of a performance. It is an amalgamation of his of an AI, like, figuring out from his past work how he would potentially sound. And yeah, I as to why they don't hire a new actor, I'd be interested to see I would have been interesting to ask if the like reaction to Solo is the reason why, because they recast all those people and that was not well performing, and like they're like, oh, we can't recast the like original core people ever again, which is a stupid thing. It's like, I understand why you want to keep the same actors doing the same thing through history. Obviously, we're in this era of like connected universes and like everybody looks the same in everything. But before with that, we had people being recast left, right, and center and all sorts of stuff. You only need to look at James Bond, which is one of the biggest franchises in the world,
and it's make believe. Like, end of the day, as much as people like to believe these things are real and their life depends on it, it is just acting. Like, the whole idea is you have someone act, you buy into performance. It doesn't matter if they're playing fucking Hamlet or Luke Skywalker. Like, it's acting.
Yeah.
It's a role.
And with hair and makeup now, you can almost pull off completely ridiculous transformations.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't had a chance to watch it, but obviously Tommy and Pam, or Pam and Tommy, just came out. And if you had told me that Sebastian Stan and Lily James were going to be Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee Jones, Tommy Lee.
Yeah. I think that's the next thing I'm going to watch. I've been trying to.
I hope.
Nights, but
I do hope Sebastian Stan plays Tommy Lee Jones at some point.
Maybe you will. I was going to watch it the other day, and I was nearly going to go watch a movie on Saturday, as you know, but instead I ended up playing a video game that I thought was maybe a little bit more important, and I decided to do that. But Pam and Tommy, or Tommy and Pam, whatever the fuck it's called, I think that's the next TV show I'll be watching. But everything I've seen, positive reviews and stuff, and all the pictures and release and stuff, it's really fucking good. I was reading an article, even because I don't think it had any spoilers in it. But I was just reading an article about the makeup and prosthetics and that sort of stuff the other day. Prosthetic boobs, prosthetic dicks, fucking hair and makeup. Like, it's the full, like, it's classic movie making techniques that lead to actors being able to do what's most important, which is act, I mean, if you want to bring up like another comparison, I don't think I've seen anyone else bring up, but like The Irishman, right?
Yes.
That is a movie that is really interesting to look at because although it isn't perfect, and Joe Pesci, in an interview or whatever, Martin Scorsese or Robert De Niro at first said that Joe Pesci didn't want to do the movie because he didn't want to wear shit all over his face. And he ended up not having to because of the technology that used to de-age in that movie. And although you have complaints about certain things, like when the characters are supposed to be younger, but they're like moving like they're really old, and there's like a behind the scenes clip you can watch of Martin Scorsese directing Al Pacino where he stands up like an old man, and Martin Scorsese's like, no, we have to do the scene again because you're like moving like you're 70. And Al Pacino's like, well, I am fucking like, so it's, that's all very interesting. But that movie used, I think, the technology almost correctly, where you still have the core physical and vocal performances of all the actors involved. I've seen Martin Scorsese in interviews describe the technology as simply being 21st century digital makeup, which I feel like is one way to put it. I feel like that's my line currently as to what I'm sort of comfortable with and I think should be done best. I'll put it this way. I feel like wherever possible, makeup, prosthetics, hair, all that sort of stuff is so good these days that should be what your aim should be. If everything else fails and you can do sort of that Irishman, some of that Marvel stuff I mentioned, de-aging Robert Downey Jr. and whatever, I also feel like that's fine if that's the only way you can achieve what you need to do. And you really need to...
Like, what I think of as well is like Bill Nye in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
David Jones is obviously a squid-faced person.
Yeah, but that
couldn't really do without with prosthetics, but
no. So there
that
are
still looks like a real person.
And times, because I was going to say, in my opinion, I think Irishman would have been a better movie if they'd simply cast someone as young Robert De Niro, and so on and so forth, and you just get good actors. However, because they're such good fucking actors, the movie's still good. Like they go, but I feel like that's my personal line as to where I think these new techniques work. And it means that you still have to have a way in which actors can give actual performances. Because if you're taking away the acting, then what are we doing? Like, what's the point? You just literally have a robot. Like Star Wars this past week You're literally watching someone in prosthetics and makeup standing next to a completely bullshit character that's all CGI. I mean, it's personal set, but ultimately, when we're watching it, it's like someone in makeup talking to someone who's not even real, whose voice isn't real, and they're looking at a puppet. Like, what the like, it's literally several generations of movie making techniques. And two of them stand up and look good. One of them sucks ass. So, and it's the most recent one. And in fact, we said it on the Holocron entries when we was talking about it. The fact the puppet looks so good just says a lot. Like, practical things just are always going to look better. I mean,
yeah, I mean, it's a pretty interesting discussion. Like, how far away are we from like them it being possible to like bring back a deceased actor to play a proper full-on role? I mean, there was discussion of somebody being cast from memory, in a movie, and they were going to completely CGI them into the movie and like use AI. It seems like that reality is getting closer and closer, and
can you
we should be worried.
Think about something like Hellboy. That movie would now just be... I reckon if they made that today... I know there was one that came out like 3-4 years ago. I know. Or whatever it was. 2 years ago. And I didn't watch it because it looked like crap. And didn't you watch it and say it was crap? So
yeah, it was not good.
But I mean, think about those original Guillermo del Toro ones. And the fact that it's just makeup and costumes and all that. Even though all those characters are literally fantasy creatures and stuff like that. So... I mean, come on. Yeah. So there's a lot to think about, and I guess we'll find out. Yeah, and everyone's just been tweeting about The Last Jedi again today. I was like, what the? I opened Twitter that's this afternoon on lunch. It's like, what the fuck is going on? Like,
I mean, does anybody ever not talk about The Last Jedi?
I thought it was over.
Is The Last Jedi the most talked about movie of all time?
Maybe, at least of the 20th
of this generation on social media. Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head a while ago when you said that was kind of a turning point for maybe the entire industry and this whole nostalgia-based desire to like feed on people's nostalgia of different properties.
I think it is. I don't feel like I'm hyperbolic when I say that. I think The Last Jedi was it. And like, I don't think that's like everyone should hate Rian Johnson for what he's done to us. Like he made a fantastic movie, but it is definitely like a point in time where you can just sort of look at that and go, that film, as much as people like to pretend that these hateful Star Wars fans are such a minority, I just feel like that was such a turning point.
Yeah, you look at all the like legacy sequels and franchises that could have continued. Looking backwards rather than looking forwards is pretty depressing. For people who want new things to get excited for, to new characters to get excited for. All right.
And I did say you can do it right. Matrix Resurrections.
Matrix Resurrections.
Right. Scream 5
does
it right. So, like, there are ways to treat your past, and Star Wars The Last Jedi does its legacy characters right. Treats them correctly while moving them forward and all these type of things. There are right ways to do sequels to old movies and treat the characters and move the stories forwards without it feeling just like a attempt to rub the testicles of fanboys.
It's a hell of a way to describe it. All right. A few different smaller stories. We finally got a new piece of casting news for Fast 10, a movie that's coming soon. Jason Momoa is set to star as a villain in Fast and Furious 10. Dylan, how do you feel about Aquaman coming to face
Perfect.
Dom?
I don't know if he's a good guy or bad guy, did they say, actually?
I've seen villain, so...
Okay. Either way, he'll be a good guy by then, probably. Perfect.
Fingers crossed he's Jacob's boyfriend. That's my dream.
I'd love that. I'm down for that, to be honest. But yeah, I think it's great casting. I mean, Jason Momoa will fit in that franchise perfectly. It doesn't really matter what character he plays. Good guy, bad guy.
What if he plays Hobbs?
No, that would be horrible. That's horrible. But yeah,
we got to recast Hobbs.
I know. We got one more Fast and Furious movie. Just
two.
What? Oh, 2 parts.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously, I'm excited, but yeah, just go cast all the big, muscly, sexy men and just put them all in the last one.
Almost do the Expendables, but
yeah, but like better, like with characters I care about. So.
But with actors you care about.
Yeah, yeah. So
yeah. I mean, yeah, he seems like a good fit for that crazy audience, and why wouldn't you want to be in one of the highest grossing franchises? Another one of the highest grossing franchises of all time. Yeah, as long as it doesn't affect his schedule. And doing what? He's got Aquaman coming out later this year. He's obviously working on 2 so oh no, he would be. He may or may not be in 2 yeah, busy guy. We got confirmation that there is a series order for Percy Jackson and the Olympians. So this is obviously the fantasy series written by Rick Riordan that had 2 feature films in 2010 and 2013, respectively, which the author didn't like. Fans didn't particularly like. I have a soft spot for them. I think they're quite fun, dumb kids' movies. But yeah, obviously coming to Disney Plus now, directed by James Bobbin, with Rick Riordan involved heavily. Did you have any attachment to this series?
I've read like the first book, I think, and I watched Percy Jackson. I've watched the first one. I watched that in the cinema, and I think around 2019 or 2010 was when I started my first blog where I was writing movie reviews. And I think I remember giving it like a 5 out of 10, which I'd stand by. I did not think it was very good. I remember complaining mostly about Uma Thurman. She's in it, right? Medusa?
Yeah, she's like Medusa, yeah.
Yeah, I remember complaining most about her, and that's more or less what I can remember about the movie. I did not like it to the point that I didn't bother watching the sequel, so that's where I would stand on that. And also Alexandra Daddario in it. Daddario.
Yeah.
And then she's obviously gone on to big things, but then I'm like, who the fuck was the kid? What's he doing?
Logan Lerman.
What's he doing?
Well, he did Perks of being a wallflower like 2 years later. And then recently he was in Fury, that tank movie. And then he was in the TV series Hunters recently.
Okay.
So yeah. Yeah. I'm keen to check it out. I think obviously there are a lot of fans for the books. It's an interesting trend that's going on at the moment of failed movie franchises based on storybooks being adapted to television. Obviously, I talked earlier about Reacher. That being a thing. And apparently now Goosebumps is set to be brought to Disney Plus as well, with them ordering a 10-episode streaming series. Of course, this is on the back of R.L. Stine's Fear Street books, making a big splash on Netflix, and there was the R.L. Stine Just Beyond graphic novels adaptation earlier last October. But yeah, we're getting more Goosebumps, I assume, in more of an anthology format than a here's Jack Black as R.L. Stine and here's all these monsters coming out of books version.
I gotta be honest, if this is done right, it may be like if I watch a trailer and it actually looks good, I will get super fucking pumped. I loved the Goosebumps books. Like I was obsessed with the Goosebumps books when I was younger. I would read them all. I had, books on tape that I'd just listen to over and over at nighttime when I went to bed and stuff. I loved those stories. And I'm actually like the fact that no one's done those stories justice and proper, like in more than a B grade sort of fashion is always been super disappointing to me, because I know a lot of the stories are, like kids level horror stuff, whatever. But yeah, I guess if Fear Street's the proving point of, hey, you can take his stuff and, you can amp it up a little bit for the kids like me who were reading that when I was younger and make it for me now, you know what I mean? Like age it up a little bit. So, there's a lot of fucked up stories in Goosebumps. So
yeah,
I would be super keen.
Yeah, I'd actually be keen as well. I remember watching the TV series. I think it was like on Channel 7, like Saturday night, 6:30. It's not good, but at the time, I mean, it was primetime television. Surprisingly,
my favorite Goosebumps story. I'll tell you that. Put it out there now. The one I want to see adapted the most. I can't remember the name of it because it's been a while. But it's about this kid who like discovers this house and he's like really into comic books and more or less his comic books start coming to life. And I remember like there's a part in it where he like goes to cuts his arm or something, and he starts bleeding ink instead of blood. And I remember like reading it and being like, oh, that's like horrifying. Like I had nightmares about it for some reason. So yeah, that's one that would be my go-to. Please adapt that story, whatever it's called.
Imagine that with Marvel money behind it.
Yeah, let's go.
Potential's endless. So yeah, that's coming. I think they said they're filming sometime this year. Otherwise, yeah. Probably 2023 we'll see Goosebumps on Disney+. Dylan, maybe surprising news, maybe not surprising news. Scream 6 is a go. According to Hollywood Reporter, Scream 6 has been officially given the go-ahead, with the core creative team returning. This includes directors Matt Bettini-Olfen and Tyler Gilbert, as well as screenwriters James Vanderbilt and Guy Busick. What's more, the studio is wasting no time at all, as production is expected to begin this summer. Paramount and Spyglass had the following statement: "We are tremendously grateful to the fans around the world who enthusiastically received our film. We can't wait for the audiences to see what Radio Silence, writers Jamie and Guy and Project X have in store for our Woodsboro family." Of course, Scream, currently the highest grossing movie released this year, at time of recording, according to Box Office Mojo, $112 million made worldwide. Dylan, are you excited about Scream 6?
Yes, very excited. I don't really have, like, I feel like maybe any other franchise I'd be a bit more trepidatious as like, oh, that seems rushed. Like, I don't know, whatever else. But I almost feel like the 6, like, I do not feel like the money is solely like Greenlight. I feel like it's a combination of studios got the numbers to say that fans like it, plus often the two
it's
have gone like no I feel like the pitch has to be pitch good.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like I feel like the green light's there for the money, but then they've gone, hey, like here's our idea, and it's been like, yes, that sounds fucking amazing. Like let's not even spend a couple months working on like working this out. It's just like, that's really great, fans love it, let's fucking go. I feel like you don't green light and go into production that fast unless. And I feel like that means they obviously had a lot of ideas when they were making this movie and probably thought of stories and stuff like that and directions they could take it. I personally feel like there's definitely room and for maybe one last story that would make a lot of sense and direction to go. So
everybody dies.
Maybe. I mean, I don't feel like there's a bad Scream movie. The third one's my least favorite, but I don't feel like there's a bad Scream movie. So it's a franchise that has so far proven that it's always never repeated itself. You know, like it is a horror movie, so obviously people die and, you know, there's always someone getting chased by Ghostface at some point in the movie. But it's a franchise that constantly reinvents itself and constantly feels fresh and whatever else. Always has great characters, great scares and stuff. So yeah, I'm super excited coming off how great 5 was. 5's fantastic, so I'm super keen. I can't wait. Plus, if you for some reason watched Scream 5 and you haven't gone and watched Ready or Not yet, please do yourself a favor and go watch Ready or Not, because then between that and Ready or Not, you'll be like, yeah, fuck yeah, these directors behind the latest Scream movie, I will trust them with my life for the 6th installment.
Dylan, Sundance just wrapped up. Big film festival. Lots of films shown. We can't go through all of them, so what I thought is, you know, we can play one of our favorite games with 10 of the biggest films of the year. Would you want to invest?
Or would I buy it? Or
yeah, would you buy
they're already made, right?
I mean, they're already made. So yes, it's like literally investing in these films. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you the premise, because some of these movies' names might have already come up. So, and then you tell me if you would want to invest.
Okay. I should be all right, because although I've seen some tweets about really big ones people love, I don't remember the names of them, and I haven't actually read much about stuff. So,
all right. First up, Nanny. Well, yeah, I'll just say the names then. Nanny. Aisha, an undocumented Senegalese immigrant, lands a job as a nanny of a wealthy Manhattan couple. While she easily wins the affections of their young daughter Rose, she becomes a pawn in the couple's facade of a marriage. The mother is as controlling as the dad is disillusioned and woke. Haunted by the absence of the young son she left behind in Senegal, Alicia hopes her new job will afford her the chance to bring him to the US and a share in the life she is piecing together. But as his arrival approaches, a supernatural presence begins to invade both her dreams and her reality.
Invest.
Okay.
Is that a good
This
choice?
one's... I think so. It won the US Grand Jury Prize for Dramatic Film, so that's a good sign. I don't know if it's actually been purchased yet. But yeah.
Too bad, I just did.
Yeah, there you go. Starring Anna Diop, Michelle Monaghan, and Sinakwa Walls. So yeah. That's that. Next up, Navalny. In August 2020, a plane traveling from Siberia to Moscow made an emergency landing. One of its passengers, Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny, was deathly ill. Taken to a local Siberian hospital and eventually evacuated to Berlin, doctors confirmed that he had been poisoned with Novichok, a nerve agent implicated in attacks on other opponents of the Russian government. President Vladimir Putin immediately cast doubt on the findings and denied any involvement. While recovering, Navalny and his team, already with a large social media following in tow, partnered with the data investigative journalism outlet Bellingcat as well as other international news organizations to investigate his attempted assassination and to find proof of the Kremlin's involvement.
Invest, for sure.
Yes, so this was also an award winner. It got Festival Favorite Award and Audience Award for US Documentary. So yeah, that sounds quite interesting. Look forward to that one later this year. Next up, we've got The Exiles. Brash and opinionated Christine Choi is a documentarian, cinematographer, professor, and quintessential New Yorker whose films and teachings have influenced a generation of artists. In 1989, she and Renee Tajima Pena started to film the leaders of the Tiananmen Square pro-democracy protests who escaped to political exile following the June 4th massacre. Though they never finished the project, Choi now travels with the old footage to Taiwan, Maryland, and Paris in order to share it with the dissidents who have never been able to return home.
Given it Sundance, am I actually not going to invest in something? Because invest. Are they just all good? So is that...
I don't know.
Invest.
Just because something's good doesn't mean it's going to do. It's going to be... just because the people of Sundance liked it doesn't mean it will be well received.
Well, I'm investing.
Next up, Cha-Cha Real Smooth. Fresh out of college, but now what? Higher education failed to provide 22-year-old Andrew with a clear life path going forward, so he's stuck back at home with his family in New Jersey. But if college did teach him one thing, it's drinking and partying. Skills that make him the perfect candidate for a job party starting at the bar and bat mitzvahs of his younger brother's classmates. When Andrew befriends a local mum, Domino, and her daughter Lola, he finally discovers the future he wants, even if it might not be his own.
Not invest.
Interesting.
Sounds
This is it won the Audience Award for US Dramatic. It's already been bought by Apple. Directed by Cooper Raiff, who you probably know from... He directed Freshman Year, or Shithouse. He also stars in it, starring Dakota Johnson and Leslie Mann. This one is this was the critic consensus best film of Sundance.
I'll invest.
Too late. We don't give second chances here.
Here's what I'll do.
Invest.
I'll invest or not invest based on the synopsis, and then see if the information following the actor, director, and all that makes me want to change my mind.
Next up, Emily, saddled with student debt and locked out of the job market due to a minor criminal record. Desperate for income, she takes a shady gig as dummy shopper, buying goods with stolen credit cards supplied by a middleman named Yusuf. Faced with a series of dead-end job interviews, Emily soon finds herself seduced not only by the quick cash and illicit thrills of black market capitalism, but also by her ardent mentor, Yusuf.
Not invest.
Okay. This one was reasonably well received, starring Aubrey Plaza, directed by John Patton Ford. But yeah, I haven't heard much about this other than people seem to like it, so... Next up, we've got Fresh. Frustrated by scrolling dating apes. Frustrated by scrolling...
They're just apes sitting in the zoo, just fucking scrolling Twitter.
Yeah.
These fucking frustrated scrolling
that's what those bored yacht apes are doing. Frustrated by scrolling dating apps only to end up on a lame, tedious dates, Noah takes a chance by giving her number to the awkwardly charming Steve after a produce section meet-cute at the grocery store. During a subsequent date at a local bar, sussy banter gives way to a chemistry-laden hookup, and the spit Noah dares to hope that she might have actually found a real connection with the dashing cosmetics surgeon. She accepts Steve's invitation to an impromptu weekend getaway, only to find that her new paramour has been hiding some unusual appetites.
Invest. Sounds like she's into fucking eating skin or something fucked up. I don't know, but invest.
Fresh is an intoxicating ride, nesting a penetrating thriller about the perils of women face on the modern dating scene with a ferocious allegory for the commodification of their bodies. Directed by Mimi Cave, starring Daisy Edgar Jones and Sebastian Stan. So
I
this
love
one
Daisy
is also...
Edgar Jones. Doesn't sound like her type of movie though. But
yeah. This one has also been quite well received. So next up, Fire of Love. Katia and Maurice Kraft love two things: each other and volcanoes. For 2 decades, the daring French volcanologist couple were seduced by the thrills and dangers of this elemental love triangle. They roamed the planet chasing eruptions and their aftermath, documenting their discoveries in stunning photos and breathtaking film, shared with an increasingly curious public in media appearances and lecture tours. Ultimately, Katia and Maurice would lose their lives during a 1991 volcanic explosion on Japan's Mount Uzunin, but they would leave a legacy that would forever enrich our knowledge of the natural world.
Non-invest. Sounds not very interesting to me.
It's a documentary, so directed by Sarah Sosa and narrated by Miranda July. Yeah. It sounds interesting, but yeah, I'd be interested. Don't know how we're going to if we'll be talking about it this time next year. Next up, good luck to you, Leo Grand. Nancy Stokes doesn't know good sex.
Wow.
Whatever it may be, Nancy, a retired school teacher, is pretty sure she's never had it, but she's determined to finally do something about it. She even has a plan. Involves an anonymous hotel room, a young sex worker who calls himself Leo Grand. Leo is confident, dapper, and takes pride in being good at his job. He also appears to be intrigued by Nancy, one of many things to surprise her during this time together.
Who's the lead in this?
You don't get to ask the question.
No, invest. I'm not investing.
So stars Emma Thompson and Darren McCormick.
I invest!
Directed by Sophie Hyde, whose previous films include 52 Tuesdays and Animals. So
I feel like the lead was going to make or break that.
Yeah. Alright. Next up, Living, a veteran civil servant and bureaucratic cog in the rebuilding of Britain post-World War II, Williams expertly pushes paperwork around a government office only to reckon with his existence when he is diagnosed with a fatal illness. A widower, he conceals the condition from his grown son, spends an evening of debauchery with a bohemian writer in Brighton, and uncharacteristically avoids his office. But after a vivacious former co-worker, Margaret, inspires him to find meaning in his remaining days, Williams attempts to salvage a modest building project from bureaucratic purgatory.
Nah, none of this.
Yeah, so this is directed by Olivia Humanis, who previously did Beauty, starring Bill Nighy, Amy Lou Wood, Alex Sharp, and Tom Burke.
Oh, Amy Lou Wood.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Okay, last one. One day in 1940, two budding stars meet for the first time in the RKO Pictures commissary, unaware that together they would change the face of pop culture. After surviving a tumultuous upbringing, a teenage Lucille Ball left her family for New York City, where she found success as a model before moving to Hollywood to begin working in movies. Hailing from Santiago to Cuba, Desi Arnaz was a paid musician by 16 and quickly broke out as a multi-talented entertainer. The two would go on to consistently challenge the status quo in entertainment, both in front of and behind the camera.
Invest.
Yep, so this is Lucy and Desi, directed by Amy Poehler. And of course, follow this documentary about the life of Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. Interesting timing for this to come out. Obviously with the all the buzz around being the Ricardos at the moment, so yeah. Interesting crop of films. Be interested to see how they all fare in like 12 months' time. How many will we actually get to see?
I was going to say, some of these, a couple we may see hit Australia this year, majority of which will actually end up releasing.
I'm confident at least one.
Next year. Which one?
Real
the
smooth.
Apple one?
The Apple one.
Yeah.
They've confirmed it's coming to Apple TV soon. Much in the way Coda was last year. So. Yeah. So if he gets a Coda treatment, I mean, that's...
Coda done well.
Pretty good. Alright, that's all there is for this week. Let's move into some thumbs for trailers. So, of course, each episode we go and watch a bunch of trailers, give you some thumb ratings, either 2 thumbs up for really good, 1 up, 1 down for mediocre, and 2 thumbs down for not good. And of course, you can find all the trailers that we're about to talk about in the show notes below. Let's kick things off with Joe vs. Carol, created by Ethan Frankel, starring John Cameron Mitchell, Kate McKinnon, Kyle MacLachlan, Dean Winters, Brian Van Holt, William Fichtner, Nat Wolff, Sam Keeley, Lex Mason, Joel Marsh Garland, Marlo Kelly, and Alejandra Calabrese. Based on the second season of Wondery's Over My Dead Body podcast, Carol Baskin, a big cat rescuer, commences a crusade to end GW Zoo owner Joe Exotic's animal shows and cub breeding business. When Joe's livelihood is threatened, he retaliates, exciting a 10-year feud between the two big cat lovers that finds them becoming sworn enemies. With the past informing the present, Carol and Joe's fight is messy, vicious, and outrageous, ultimately ending in an attempted murder. Dylan, you've been closely following the Tiger King narrative. What did you think of this trailer?
Double thumbs down. I thought it looked horrible. So this takes like everything I sort of hate about the Tiger King sort of phenomenon and just turns it into a TV show. I'm sure I'll watch this, to be honest. I'll say that, like, it looks terrible, but I'm sure I'll end up watching it anyway. But yeah, it's just like the sensation. It pops up one stage, it's like the sensational story or some shit. I'm like, it's not a sensational story. It's a fucking horrible story. Like, I just can't. Like, if you've watched the first season and like people fucking killing themselves and all this plot for murder and drugs and fucking whatever, kidnapping, like, it's not a fun story. Like, I just like the elements of it that I understand are just larger than life that people grab onto, but ultimately I just don't feel like it's as, like, we're playing it off very fun, and this trailer highlights more of the wild antics and not actually a lot more of the serious nature of the story. And I just don't like, that's what the direction people have taken it anyway. So I understand that's why the TV show is the way it is, because it's all fucking memes and shit. But yeah, double thumbs down. I don't think the trailer was good, and I doubt the series will be good anyway, but look forward to me watching it and complaining about it later, I'm sure.
I'll go 1 up, 1 down. I think it looks okay. You know, nothing special at all. Like, it's bordering on 2 thumbs down.
Carol Baskin! Like, it's just parody.
Yeah, it is definitely a high parody, but I feel like on the Carol Baskin side, it feels like more serious elements. It doesn't seem as extreme as the Joe Exotic side. I think Kate McKinnon's is doing a normal impression, not an over and top impression. And I mean, it's just Kyle MacLachlan seems like he's a normal dude. So, and yeah, it definitely feels like we're getting to the point of diminishing returns on this story. I think there was even meant to be another TV series currently being made around the same sort of thing or something. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully I'm hoping at the very least this is the end of the story, and this is the last time we see this.
You know, there'll be another season of the documentary and whatever else. Anyway.
I mean, I don't know, honestly.
No,
but yeah,
Joe Exotic dies in prison or he gets out or whatever. I mean, he just got his, I think most recently he got it denied or whatever. But I mean, they'll do another season.
They'll do something. Yeah. So yeah, Joe vs. Carl is coming to Stan here in Australia on March 4th. Next up, we've got Genius, or Genius, a Kanye trilogy, directed by Cootie and Chike,
Got him.
starring Kanye West, an intimate portrait of rapper Kanye West charting his life and career, filmed over 2 decades. It showcases both his formative days trying to break through and his life today as a global brand and artist. Dylan, you're a former big Kanye West fan. What do you think of this trailer?
Double thumbs up. I think this looks really interesting. I think, as a former Kanye West fan, this is covering the era primarily. I guess this will be covering his great beginnings, and then it sort of seems like it'll touch on how does he end up where he is now, which is just crazy. But as someone who owned all the sort of original trilogy, quadrilogy, whatever of those fantastic albums, and had all these live DVDs and I had college dropout pictures on some of my school books and stuff like this. Yes, I'm very keen to watch this as a former Kanye fan, but I also hope that when it does get to current day Kanye, I hope it's a bit more critical than the trailer makes it seem. Not just it's just a bit of a different person. No, he's said some fucked up shit, so let's not pretend he hasn't. So I think as a trailer and everything, double thumbs up. I think it looks really interesting. Definitely keen to watch it.
2 thumbs up from me as well. I think it does look interesting. Someone who's not as invested in Kanye West. It looks like it's going to be an interesting story, an interesting rise at the very least. And I feel like even the directors, or one of the directors, says they were very close and was there all the time towards the beginning, and then they sort of drifted apart, which seems like a lot of the original fans kind of went the same way. It looks like they're definitely going to be going over a lot of material, and I think it's also very interesting that Netflix is going with a different release strategy with this, where they're releasing they're
doing the Beatles treatment.
They're doing the Beatles treatment, doing the Fear Street treatment.
Yeah,
with an episode a week. Yeah. So, and I think it's coming out
February Valentine's Day or some weird shit. Probably, I think it was.
Yeah, I think February 16th.
Oh, there you go. Close enough.
So I would assume that's Wednesday. Going head to head with Disney.
Oh.
It's going to be an interesting ride. So this is coming to Netflix February 16th, releasing 1 episode a week for 3 weeks. Next up, we've got After Gang. So this was another big film from Sundance, directed by Kogonada, starring Colin Farrell, Jodie Turner-Smith, Justin H. Min, Malaya Emma, Jantra Wijaja, and Haley Lou Richardson. When this young daughter's beloved companion, an android named Gang, malfunctions, Jake searches for a way to repair him. In the process, Jake discovers the life that has been passing in front of him, reconnecting with his wife and daughter across a distance he didn't know was there. I think this looks really fantastic. His previous film, Columbus, is one that I've been trying to find somewhere in Australia, but it's not on any streaming services, and it's not anywhere available to rent in Australia.
Oh, it's your dead pigs.
Yeah, it's my dead pig. This looks really cool, a really interesting, sci-fi sort of exploration piece, while also, kind of being about a family, and I think it looks very pretty, and apparently obviously it's a little bit heavy on accolades, but potentially the best thing Colin Farrell's done in a while. So definitely keen to check this one out later this year. Tom, what do you think?
1 up, down.
2 thumbs up.
1 up, 1 down. I'm really keen for it. I just think the trailer was a bit weirdly edited at times, and I don't know, the pacing or something about the trailer just seemed off for me. I don't know, maybe it was a bit too long or something, but 1 up, 1 down. I'm very keen to watch. I like the premise, and all in all, from everyone saying it's sort of touching on themes and stuff that I find really interesting. You're long about Colin Farrell. Colin Farrell's fantastic, and he does great movies.
That's what it says in the trailer. It's his best performance in years.
Well, that's fighting words, I reckon, because he's in good shit all the time. Have you watched The Gentleman?
No, I have not.
It's fucking great. Have you watched The Lobster? But no, One Up, One Down looks great. I just thought the trailer was a little bit off.
Okay. All right. That's releasing in the US on March 4th on Showtime and in theaters, and currently no release date here in Australia. It's an A24 film, so who knows who it's coming from?
In 2023.
Yeah, who knows where or when it will come.
Come on, Neon.
Neon's like a competitor. It's like, come on.
Yeah, no, just pick it
Man.
up. Do it. Yeah, Madman probably, actually.
Yeah. Next up, Asking for It, directed by Eamon O'Rourke, starring Kiersey Clemens, Vanessa Hudgens, Alexandra Shipp, Ezra Miller, Rada Mitchell, Gabourey Sidibe, and Luke Hemsworth. After a small-town waitress is sexually assaulted on a date, she meets Regina and Beatrice and is recruited into a vigilante group of badass women. Together they strike to take down a society overpowered by corrupt men and seek the ultimate revenge while getting their own version of justice. I'm going to go 2 thumbs down for this one. I only included it because it is a very funny juxtaposition to Promising Young Woman, which I think kind of tackles this scenario in kind of more of a subtle and like less over the top way. And this feels like what, unsurprisingly, a man would write to as the way to deal with being raped. So yeah, I really like the cast involved, but yeah, and it seems like they're gonna murder some over the top Proud Boy figure in Ezra Miller, but other than that, it's not for me.
I'm going 2 thumbs down, but in saying that, I'm going to say I want to watch it. So I thought the trailer was bad, but I'm also like, I like this cast, and it just seems so silly. And in elements, it reminds me of how silly Assassination Nation was, but I really enjoyed that. But maybe that's like riding a very thin line, and like that movie somehow made that concept and everything ridiculousness of it work. But yeah, I kind of want to watch it, but it was a bad trailer, so 2 thumbs down.
Yeah, so this is coming into theaters March 4th in the US, no release date in Australia. It is a Paramount film, so it may be coming to Paramount Plus any day now for all I know. Next one, Super Pumps, The Battle for Uber, created by Brian Koppelman and David Livian, starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Uma Thurman, Kyle Chandler, Elizabeth Shue, Kerry Bish, John Bass, Bridget Gow-Hollett, and Babka Taft. The true story behind the meteoric rise of Uber founder Travis Kalanick, with the help of venture capitalist Bill Gurley and the board member Ariana Huffington, Kalanick forges a fledgling startup into a multi-billion-dollar colossus. But everyday surges come with a price. Dylan, what do you think of this?
This is 2 thumbs down. I think it looks bad. I think it looks so hard like it's trying to be The Social Network that it's cringy, and the performances and everything just looks so... It's like it's a cross between trying to be The Social Network and like Wolf of Wall Street or something, but I don't know. I thought it was bad, and I thought the trailer was bad, and 2 thumbs down. No thanks.
I'm going to go 1 up, 1 down. Purely because I like the cast. I don't think it looks as bad as you think. I think the premise is interesting. Apparently they want this to be an anthology series where each season they tackle a different business story. But yeah, Joseph Gordon-Levitt seems like he's going a little bit over the top, especially towards the ends, which is definitely getting the Social Network kind of vibes. And Kyle Chandler looks like he's giving the same expression every single shot this trailer. Which is not what you want, I don't think. But yeah, I'm interested to check it out. Apparently, this is coming to Paramount Plus in the US, so you have to assume it's coming to Paramount Plus sometime this year. So another reason to get Paramount Plus? Potentially. Come up with those email addresses. Let's round out this show with this week's top 3.
Definitely in the top 3.
And I thought, talked about the Afterparty, talked about, we've got Death and Nile about to come out. We talked about murders before in the episode. This week I figured, why not? Top 3 detectives in media. So, fun category. We've obviously got a bunch of different detective figures. I didn't necessarily want to specify that it had to be a detective, like as an actual police officer, but yeah. Dylan, what is your number 3?
Number 3, Sherlock Holmes. I feel like that's sort of, the most famous detective. Conan Doyle's, of course, creation. I'm a big fan of the BBC Sherlock series, even though everyone just sort of makes fun of it on Twitter now, and I go, whatever, I don't care. And I've read several of the original books and some of the older films. I don't really like the Robert Downey Jr. stuff because it's more an action film than a detective, and that's not really what I want out of Sherlock personally, but more power to you, I guess. Yeah, Sherlock Holmes, obviously he's just, he's the world's greatest detective. It's all about actually looking for clues and solving things and through detective stuff. And my other two are less of that. So I will get on the board with probably the most proper detective answer I can give. But yeah, Sherlock Holmes.
Okay. The opposite end of the spectrum. My number 3, Sean Spencer from Psych, the TV series. I'm a big Psych fan. It's a lot of fun. Obviously, this is a character who pretends he's a psychic, but is using his powers of deduction to figure out these cases behind the scenes. Really fun. And obviously he's got his fun banter with Gus, and it's a good time. And they've somehow found a way to keep going, even though the series ended 4 or 5 years ago. Pop up every couple of years with a different special. Keeping the stories alive, giving new mysteries and dumb jokes and fun names for each other. So yeah, Sean Spencer. Dylan, what is your number 2?
My number 2 is L from Death Note. The anime series, of course, one and done, based on the manga, but L is... I always used to tell people, if you don't like anime, that's fine. I feel like Death Note is so good that even if you don't like anime, you'd be able to watch it. And I still think that the story in Death Note, even though it's got supernatural elements, is one of the best detective sort of cat and mouse stories in movie or television. And I would stand by that. I think it's just, as far as cat and mouse sort of people playing off one another and all that sort of stuff, without spoiling it, because I don't want to spoil all of Death Note. I know it's old, but yeah, L is just such an iconic character in any medium to me. I could, it's just one of the best sort of detective creations and so unique. So yeah, that's my number 2.
My number 2, also another, one that would probably be unsurprising to anybody who knows me. Detective Jake Peralta from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. What a great character. And he solves crazy mysteries.
Does he solve anything?
He solves crimes all the time. He never fails at solving different crimes. I was just even just today, I saw a clip of, I think it's The Room.
The movie The Room?
No. No, I thought the episode was called The Room, but it just looked like it. Where he's interrogating a person. He's gets them to divulge how they perform the murder by outthinking him and that kind of stuff. So, he's got the dumb, boyish, idiot element to him, but he's also a very good detective. And, every time he gets, super involved in getting his suspects to sing Backstreet Boys, he does figure out which one of them's the killer. So, yeah. Number 2 on my list. Dylan, what is your number 1 detective?
What do you think my number 1 detective is?
Batman.
Incorrect.
Damn.
My number 1 is Veronica Mars.
That was right there. So stupid.
One of the greatest TV shows of all time, and one of the greatest TV detectives, or any detective, if you will, of all time. Of course, Veronica Mars isn't actually a detective, but as you said, that's fine.
That's fine.
She does detect things.
She detects things.
She solves
detective
crime.
sounds better than crime solver.
Yeah, she is technically a PI. I guess that's what she is in the show. Or works. Her dad's a PI and whatever else. But then she eventually becomes her own PI. But yeah, she solves lots of cases. The show does a really good job of showing how she solves lots of different cases by interviewing people, talking to people, finding evidence, all this sort of stuff, hacking into stuff and getting help from other people and whatever else. But yeah, Veronica Mars being not only one of my top sort of shows of all time, also one of my favorite characters created for TV, I would say as well. So yeah, definitely my pick for my favorite detective.
All right. My pick for favorite detective is Sherlock from Sherlock. I think it's a great show. Benedict Cumberbatch plays a great version of that character. The definitive version of the character, in my opinion. And yeah, like a lot of the mysteries are really interesting, and the way he solves them and figures them out is really good. And his ongoing thing with Moriarty is great. His mind palace elements and trying to figure out the mysteries inside of his head. That's all fun, I think it peaked probably season 3, like after he came back for his death, maybe. The final season is not fantastic.
I was gonna say it peaked at his death, maybe. Season 2 was the highlight, maybe,
true.
But like not.
I love the wedding
bad,
episode though. That's one of my favorite.
It is really good, but I would say like quality for episode, the first 2 seasons are like mint, and then it's sort of like a little bit wavers from there on.
Yeah. But yeah, Sherlock, it's a fantastic TV show. If you haven't watched it, you should go watch it. Might even go rewatch an episode after this. Alright, let us know what your favourite TV or movie detectives are by going to explosion.com/Twitter or jump into our Discord at explosion.com/Discord. If you want to help us out here at What Do You Want to Watch, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser, or tell people about the show. Or leave us 5 stars on any service that lets you leave 5 stars. And if you like this episode, thought it was worth $1, head on over to our Ko-fi page at explosion.com/support. Thank you very much for listening. Until next time, keep watching stuff, I guess.